Hi sisters, it's been a while since I have put anything up here. I am spending Friday night at the laundromat. My washing machine is broken and we have a repairman coming out in a few days to look at it. And I had to take one of my kiddos to a practice, and so here I am waiting on laundry. So I figured that this was as quiet of a place as I was going to find because I'm the only person here. So I wanted to share something with you all that I learned the other day when I was teaching a class for church. And I think it can get kind of hard when you have older kids in Sunday school or in Vacation Bible School or your older kids at home. You go through the little Bible stories in the Beginner's Bible or a work kind of like that, and you tell your kids Bible stories at the table, and they have Sunday school and they learn all the little Bible stories. But it can get kind of hard, I think, when they get older to find something that they think is new, especially if your kids are raised in church and they hear this stuff a lot. And mine kind of feel that way sometimes, I think. I think they feel like they've already heard everything there is to hear, which isn't true, and that, they already know everything there is to know, which also, as you know, isn't true. But it does, as a teacher, kind of keep you on your toes. And so I had to do a class Wednesday night for the kids at church, and I didn't know what I was going to teach on, and I was actually reading my son's biology book, getting ready to help him with some things, when the subject came to me. And so I wanted to share that with you because it's something I had never ever thought about before. And it's something that if you have older kids, like I would say, 10 probably on up, it would really kind of make sense with them, especially if they've had any kind of chemistry at all in school or in homeschool. And so I was studying his biology, and it starts with microbiology, and it was talking about the different kinds of bonds that form covalent bonds and ionic bonds, and it used sodium, which is NaCl. And NaCl, as table salt, is an ionic bond, which means that one of the atoms, and I believe it is sodium, has to give its electron away to the chlorine gas for it to actually produce table salt. And the book said that sodium and chlorine are two of the they are the two most available ions in the earth, that those two ions are the most readily available, and they bond very easily. And it was giving some properties of sodium and some properties of chlorine. And I started looking those up in a couple books I had, and it said that sodium, when it's mixed with water, is highly volatile and explosive. In fact, it will explode so fast that if you conduct this experiment, which I don't even know how you would do that unless you were a teacher and you had access to like straight sodium, not table salt, but actual sodium. It explodes so fast in the water that you almost can't see it. Like if you're not really staring at it, you'll totally miss. It's this huge flash, and if you Google that, you will see videos and you'll see still frame photos of that explosion. Chlorine gas is very volatile by itself. It was used in World War I as chemical warfare, which was like the first war that really used a lot of chemical warfare. So it's very volatile. And when it mixes with water on its own, it forms hydrochloric acid and some other type of acid. But hydrochloric acid, of course, is what's in your stomach. And if the Lord did not create you with all of these protections in your stomach against that hydrochloric acid, it would completely eat a hole through your body. So hydrochloric acid is incredibly dangerous in and of itself, outside of a controlled, contained environment that God created. So I'm studying all this, and I start thinking about how Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount that he was telling his church that ye are the salt of the earth. And I'm thinking about all these properties of salt, and I'm thinking about how churches are made up of people who have a lot and people who don't have a lot. And having a lot can mean a lot of different things. It can mean they were blessed with musical talent. It can mean that they were blessed financially. It can be somebody who was blessed with a rich, loving family. someone who was blessed with being raised in a missionary Baptist church, somebody who is blessed with opportunity and intellect and all of these things. When you think of God gifting somebody with a special, unique thing, there are people that are like that have a lot. There are also people in our churches who don't have as much. They don't have as much money. Maybe they don't have as much musical talent. Maybe they're not as strong in the word as somebody else is. Maybe they haven't had as many opportunities. Maybe they got saved in the 11th hour of their life and they're just learning how to walk this Christian walk. And so we see so many times that, especially when Paul is writing to the different churches, he talks about these differences. And he talks about, how you are to love one another, and how that you're to dwell in unity, and how those that are strong have to bear the infirmities of the weak. And so you have in churches people that are blessed. They are commanded to share with those that don't have, and the ones that don't have to be humble enough to receive what is being given to them. So I was thinking about how sodium is like the church. That sodium and the chlorine is like the church, and when they are together, they form a beautiful compound. When they are separate, they're not very good. They are obnoxious, really. I mean, the sodium is so volatile, it explodes with anything. And the chlorine gas, if it combines with the wrong things, will kill a lot of people. This is not a good thing. And when you think about where you would be as a person without salvation, maybe you're one of those people who has been blessed with a lot. If you didn't have salvation, and if you weren't in the Lord's church using the gifts that he gave you for his honor and glory, you would probably be pretty destructive to other people. You would think that you didn't need anybody, and you would be destructive. If you're a person who did not grow up in a missionary Baptist church, and maybe, now it's getting loud, and maybe you don't have those gifts that other people have, then you would probably be dangerous to people too. If the love of God hadn't come in and changed your heart, and you were left to your own sinful devices, and you had never found the truth, you would probably be very dangerous and harmful to people too. But see how God puts us together. He saves us and he puts us together. Okay, so the rest of that verse about ye being the salt of the earth talks about how it says that, I believe it says, ye are the salt of the earth, and if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall the earth be salted? It is good for nothing except to be cast down and trod under the feet of men. That's a terrible paraphrase, so please look that up. But I think that's Matthew 5. It's Matthew chapter 5. So how does salt lose its savor? Well, I got to thinking about salt. Salt is a crystal, and no matter how many times you cut it, you can't really pulverize it because it's still a crystal. Like, no matter how many times you cut it down, it's still going to be in a crystallized form. And I got to thinking about, we had as a snack that night, I did salted pretzels because they're awesome, except I didn't have mustard, and that makes it only so awesome. You know what I'm saying? Because mustard, to me, makes the soft pretzel. That is what makes the soft pretzel. So, but I did it because of the salt. And so I had the kids, take a piece of salt and put it on their tongue. And if you notice, when you put salt on your tongue, if you could not wet your tongue at all, which is impossible, it's impossible. Your tongue always is going to have a little bit of moisture, even if you deliberately try to really dry it out. As soon as you put that salt on your tongue, the minute that the water and the moisture from your tongue begins to act on that salt, it dissolves. Because water is the thing, it is the perfect molecule, it's the perfect compound to melt that salt. And if you didn't have the water, I don't think you'd ever taste salt. I don't think you could taste it without that moisture, because the water, it dissolves it so that it actually can spread out and you can actually taste it. Now, what is the water? Well, the water is the Spirit. The water is the Spirit of God. And so his church, when you have people come together in a church body and the Spirit is there, that's how the salt has its taste. That's how the world can taste it. That's how everybody else can be affected by the salt. But you can have the sodium and you can have the chlorine, but without the water, you're not going to taste anything. The salt will have lost its savor. And if our churches get away from God, we get away in practice, and we get away from the Lord in our personal daily walk, and we're not following his commandments, we're not being obedient to his word and to his Spirit, the Spirit isn't going to meet with us in our churches, and we're not going to have any flavor to the world. And don't you think that's true? I mean, I think about, sometimes, and it's not any church in particular, because I've been to a lot of churches, and we're all pretty much this way, but don't you just get tired of dead services where there's no Spirit of God? You just don't feel the Spirit like you should? There's times when you come in and the Spirit's really strong, and, people they're prayed up, and they've been serving God in their daily life and the day-to-day, and then we all come together. The two molecules come together in the presence of the church, and the Spirit's there, and it's good. And then there's other times when, the sodium might be there and the chloride might not be there, and the chlorine might be there and the sodium might not be there, and sometimes you're all both there, but you haven't been doing anything all week, and so the Spirit doesn't meet with you. And it's just miserable, isn't it? So that was my little lesson. I was just thankful that the Lord showed me that. And so if you have a science kid, or if you're looking for something for a VBS, that might be a good lesson for a VBS. But I just wanted to share it because it's not something I had ever really thought about before. I've thought about how in the world does salt lose its flavor? How is that possible? And then I got my answer. So I hope that you all are doing well. I'm going to share a couple more things that I feel like I need to share, but this was the first one I wanted to start with. So anyhow, love all of you, and I hope that you're having a blessed day. Bye-bye.